Welcome to this week's edition of Black Authors Matter TV, where we interview the latest movers and shakers in the African American literary community. You'll meet some old friends, discover new ones, and stay abreast of the latest book developments around the country and even the world. So sit back and relax for the next 2 hours with Black Authors Matter TV co-hosts Gwen Richardson and Dr. Rhonda Lawson.
Good evening and welcome to another episode of Black Authors Matter TV. I'm Gwen Richardson, your host for tonight, along with my co-host,
Dr. Rhonda Lawson. Good evening, everyone.
And hope you all are having a good week. Our weather, we were cold for a little bit, but it doesn't last. It was 80 degrees yesterday. So it's this weather, but it's the kind of weather that makes you sick.
I don't want to hear anything.
Do y'all still have ice and snow on the ground?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Well, that's unfortunate. Well, anyway, I see a lot of license plates from all over, like the northern states, Illinois and Ohio, and I know that they are feeling better about the winter than they would automatically. So anyway, we have a great lineup again tonight. And if you are planning to attend the National Black Book Festival this year, it's going to be awesome. We're at 40% already registrations, at 40% capacity. So it's moving very quickly. And we're looking forward to another great year. So our lineup tonight is a variety of authors with different topics. And so the first author has been on the show multiple times, and so she's familiar to the audience, and it's Vanessa Riley. She's multi-published. She writes in at least 2 different genres, historical fiction and romance. She might write in something else, but she'll let us know. And she has a new book out. So welcome back to the show, Vanessa.
Hey ladies, how are you guys doing?
We're doing
great. How are you tonight?
I'm happy to be here.
You look camera ready.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Girl, I got the lights right.
Yeah, you do. It looks really nice. So you have a new book out. You have it behind you, but I also have my copy that I bought. So
it's been hard to get copies, so I'm glad to see that.
Oh,
that's a good problem.
That is a good problem. I ordered mine. I ordered my books through Ingram. So for my person.
Okay, that's a miracle.
Mm-hmm.
Because they haven't done. Yeah, let's just. Yeah, Are we on live? Are we live right now?
Yes, we are live. Go ahead.
Always live.
I just want to make sure,
Yeah.
But yeah, there have been some of my beloved indies did not get the book on release day.
So
I'm
glad
to hear
about to
Ingram
put an order in right now for I want to order just a few copies of my last book for my event that's going to be on the 21st, and I'm praying that they get here in time. I'm just going to order a few copies. I'm hoping just because it's a few copies it might come on time. Call them.
Okay.
You ain't hear from me.
Okay. All right. So this new book, Fire, Sword, and Sea. Now, Rashonda Tate was on the show last week, and she's writing in this space now, the historical fiction. And she mentioned that she's going to continue in that vein because what happens is once you start doing the research, you find other things, other people that need to be written about. So this book is kind of in a similar time period as your other books that came out, or is it earlier?
Earlier.
1675. I saw that. So,
Girl,
but
that was drama. I'm gonna tell you right now. I should I know from about 1750 to 1830. I know that world inside and out. I know how money transmits. I know all the wars. I know all the country factions. I know when people got free. I know what the state of the transatlantic slave trade is. I know all that. I ain't know jack for 1600s.
Okay.
I had to learn it all. Like I didn't even know how people dressed.
So how did you face that challenge? Did you just dive right in, or did you kind of study as you went along?
No, I had to dive in because I had a deadline.
Uh-huh.
That kind of changes your perspective when you have a deadline.
Yeah.
But pro tip for anybody writing about any time period, follow the money. If you can answer the question, how is money made? What are people buying? That will get you everything pretty much that you need. It's going to tell
That's
you what kind of food they're going to be, purchasing, what they're able to purchase, the different class strata, how they're making a living, even down to the clothes, because clothes, different types of clothes, different types of tapestries or cottons versus wools, et cetera. It's going to tell you all of that. And then
so how
how
so you said how was money made in the 1600s and
how
it
did you make money? Basically,
okay.
how did you as a person make money? And then what did you spend that money on?
Now, how did you do your research? Did you use AI or did you do it the old-fashioned way?
Okay, girl, you just almost made me stroke out here. Did you say use AI? Oh my God. Okay. Okay. New pro tip. You use AI, half the stuff they're gonna tell you is a lie. Half the
Yeah,
stuff
because
is a lie.
it just pulls
Yeah.
up what's been put out there. That
No,
doesn't
no, no.
mean it's
It does
true.
even more than that, Gwen. It makes up stuff that
Okay.
sounds close to what you're
Yeah,
looking for.
because
Okay.
because AI does what's called oh, what's the word it uses? I
Adaptive
forgot the
logic.
hmm? No,
Adaptive logic.
I forgot the word that it uses. But it'll sound like it's real, but it's not. But see, I like to use it because I like to use it not for my total research, but if I want to know what the popular thought is at that time, I might use it, but then I'll use real research so I can find out
Yeah.
what the real deal is, because you've got to use real research and actually go to what the real publications had to say about it. You can't just depend on AI. But if you
Can't
just want
depend
to know
on
what
it at
the
all,
popular
girl.
thought
That's
is,
a limb. You standing on a limb that's gonna
it's
break.
like, but it's like Wikipedia. When people depend on Wikipedia for their research, Wikipedia is cool if you want to know what the popular thought is.
Yeah,
But if
or
you
if
need,
you want to know when
No,
somebody
when
was
you go to
born or
Wikipedia,
something
go
like that,
all the way
you
down to
know.
the bottom
Mhm,
and look at the sources.
Mhm.
exactly,
That's
exactly.
what Wikipedia is for, because Wikipedia is somebody's opinion.
Mhm.
Right.
But they'll give you these sources so you can go firsthand and look at the sources and be able to document. When I have looked at Wikipedia, it's gotten children's names wrong, it's gotten marriage dates wrong.
Yes.
It's
Okay.
it's like the first generation of AI that,
Okay.
because it's
Right.
I'm telling
No,
y'all,
when I did my doctoral research, they specifically said nothing with .com. They would not accept anything with .com behind it. We had to use something that said .edu or .org. That's what we had to use our research on.
Mhm.
But like I said, whenever I write books, if I used Wikipedia, I only used it because I wanted to know what was the popular prevailing thought, what did the everyday person think about something? But then when I wanted to know what was really happening, I wanted to use academic research for that.
Yeah. And unfortunately, especially with Wikipedia, people can now jump in and change the code.
Right.
So I've seen that in several cases. Like I go back and it's been rewritten by
Mhm.
somebody who gained access. So you can't, unfortunately, you cannot trust anything. So for
Mhm.
my research, I am looking at the letters. Like I actually read pirate letters. One of the famous pirates of the time
Well,
wrote
that's
an
awesome.
apology for stealing his frigate.
Oh,
And yeah, he's Henry Avery is one of the most famous pirates of the 1600s. He hit the Muslim Mughal Empire and lived and survived and had all this money and disappeared. But he decided to write a letter to the British Navy, is saying he was sorry for stealing their ship, and that he respected the ship. I mean, girl is crazy, but that level tells you what they're doing, how the pirates are thinking. Some of these will tell you how a battle went. So this book is, if you haven't read it yet, it's muscular. I take you on these pirate adventures.
That's amazing.
You're
No, I was just saying that's amazing that just reading real pirate letters.
Yeah.
How in the world did you find a pirate letter?
Girl, I got crazy books. So when you're a history nerd, and when you don't promise to write a book about some era, you get real panicked, and you find everything under the sun. And there are letters. Women today, I tell you guys to journal. I tell you journal, because I find more men's letters, men writing back to their families that have now, the British Museum has packaged up, or other historians have gotten the letters and they've written nonfiction books to detail these different facets. It's very rare to find a woman's account. So we need to find space to write our stories, otherwise they're going to be ignored. Like
Yes.
that's why Rashonda's finding these people, because these are famous people during that time frame. But now that we step 20 years, 50 years, 100 years, 200 years, 300 years away, they have all disappeared because people don't prioritize women's stories. They don't prioritize our journey. They don't think that we've done something significant, or they try and find a man to claim that they've done these different things. And without our testimony, you're left with what they say. I've got in my house, I'm a collector of old books. I've got 200-year-old books with other, with letters from the Regency time frame. Just because you want to understand, what are people valuing? What are they thinking? So once again, jumping to the 1600s, that's not my era. And so I had to basically learn everything. And, you can't even really start writing if you don't know what these people are doing, if you don't know what they value, you don't know what they're wearing. And then when you get into the colonies in the Caribbean, I mean, it's completely different. Like this world, guys, there are two world powers during the 1600s. Okay, y'all think about all the countries we know of. There's only two world powers. That's Spain, the Spanish Armada, the big ships stealing the gold from from South America, indigenous. And then the Muslim Mughal Empire in the east. Those two have all the gold. So if you're Britain and France and Portugal and the Dutch, you have given pirates a license to hit those guys. It's now legal to be a pirate because we want you to hit them. As long as you give us a tithe, give me 10%. We good. I mean, it's a fascinating world. Like your job, I could be a chef, a maid, a pirate, right? I mean, it's a legal thing. So it was completely chaos. But then I find these amazing women and these amazing stories, and I want to bring them back to you. So that makes you dig in more, and it makes you, because this may be your only opportunity to hear about Lawrence de Graaf, a man with a Haitian mother, with I think a Dutch father, who becomes one of the richest pirates during this time frame. You may never hear of Anne de Ver, a French woman who was literally enslaved. And it's like people who doing this, doing enslavement, do it all the same. They don't. This 1600s, anybody could be enslaved. So they're stealing women, French women, from Paris, because they have an idea to get these colonies started, that they're going to force these women who may have been stealing or just literally kidnapped from the streets of Paris to marry these men. So they throw them in the bottom of a boat, shackle them, and take them across from France, across the ocean to the Caribbean to marry these old retiring pirates. Enslavement it begins the same.
Similar.
Begins the same. But this is not chattel slavery. Once they have married, they're free. Once they have children, they're free. Chattel slavery, it's generational.
We're never free unless you escape and went somewhere. Something came to my mind when you were talking about the women's stories and journaling, and this is not necessarily related to this new book that you have, but just writing about history from the past and with women, because our ancestors couldn't write. it was illegal for them to write, then how do we capture like 200 years of stories? How do we
There's
capture that?
there's always someone watching, right?
Right.
And even in the narratives that are written by others, they mention it, but they'll be real slick about it. They'll say, they'll say that the maid did X, Y, and Z. And then when you go back and you do the research and you do the household research, you figure out who that maid was. Or they'll mention
Okay.
somebody's sister or somebody's mother. And then you've got to do the research of figuring out who these people are. And for Fire, Sword, and Sea, I was literally, I was in Jamaica. I was in Jamaica on a writer's retreat.
Okay.
And whenever I go somewhere, I want to know about the history. And Kingston, when you fly into Kingston, you fly over Port Royal. And Port Royal is the Sodom and Gomorrah of the West Indies. One day, it was hit by a tsunami, an earthquake, and fire. Half of Port Royal is now in the sea, still in the sea. The half that survived, there's a fort called Fort Charles. So I go there and they're showing me around where they made a kind of a touristy thing, but they're showing you where the soldiers were, famous Admiral Nelson, Lord Nelson was stationed there. They show you where, and they were like, would you like to see where we kept the women pirates? Now.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Now, were you working on the book then, or was this before? Is
This
this
is
what
before
gave
the
you the
book.
idea?
This was
For the book.
before the book,
Okay.
right? I was
Okay.
actually working on a different idea. This was before.
Okay. Okay.
So we go there
Okay.
and they were like, would you like to go to prison? Now, as a Black person, I say, no, I'm not going to prison. Yeah, y'all might lose the key or something. I got a whole bunch of issues. I can't go into the prison cell. But then when they say the women pirates, I'm like, okay, I will make an exception to my rule of not going into prison to do this. And you go there and there's an energy, you feel the history in this.
Mm-hmm.
And I asked, well, these, Mary Read and Anne Bonny, they're two white pirate women. They're from the 1750s. Are there any Black women pirates? And we all take out our phones and start Googling, right? And then one of the first articles I get to is an article by LA Times where they said 20 to 30% of the pirates in the Caribbean were Black. And then we find this name, Jacquot de la Haye. Jacquot's mother was African, her father was French. And we get bits of her story, but from going back to your question, from other pirates who knew her. Okay. So Michel Le Basque knew her, and so I get a piece of her story there. Anne Deveux knew her, so I get a piece of her story there. Lourdes de Graff knew her. So all of these people, that puts me places and things. So I get to fill in the gaps, because unfortunately with women, you will get, she was born here, died here, maybe one or two of the big things that she did in life, but you don't have any of that middle.
Yeah, children probably.
Yeah, she didn't, as far as I know, she did not have any children.
Okay.
But, her family structure with her father, she's literally, and I take you there in the book, she starts out as working in her father's tavern. Her father, is in Tortuga. It's a big pirate haven. He's making his money selling them drinks. There's a brothel upstairs. And she is listening to all these stories about pirates going out and doing this adventure. But in this world of 1600s, women only have two roles. They could either be a wife or a wench, or as my friend said, a hoe or a housewife.
Right.
And you're listening to these pirate stories, and your mother was this very bold woman who died in childbirth. She begins to say, I want something more. I don't want this. And so I take you on this journey of how this woman, who is molded to be a wife of somebody, who's in the kitchen cooking, becomes literally becomes a pirate captain, one of the best sword fighters or rapier fighters known in this particular time frame. And you go on her rise. And I want people to know your dreams are worth fighting for, even if they're unconventional. I want them to know there's such a thing as holy anger. You can rage. You can do what you need to do. There is a moment for that. You cannot stew necessarily in anger, because that does stuff to you. But it's okay to be angry, because often they tell women, no, you just sit back Don't be angry. Just, forgive and forget. You should forgive and forget. But that moment of being angry is also powerful because that could be a moment of change.
Yeah, and anger is a good motivator too.
Yeah, anger is actually a
Anger
very
is
healthy
motivator. Mhm.
Yeah, it's how you handle the anger that
Yes.
can cause problems, but you have to have anger.
Yes.
I mean,
Yeah.
because if you hold it inside, it comes out in some very unhealthy
Exactly.
ways.
Exactly. And the book is called Fire Sword and Sea. So she might have handled it in maybe some ways we wouldn't have handled it.
Right.
But I think there's a place for that. And again, and the subtle thing is when women make choices, there's a cost. There's always a cost. So I think this is one of these great books for people to discuss the representation in this book, because the lifestyles of the 1600s are so different, but maybe they're not so different from where we are now. But everybody owns the piracy history. It's not, I love Pirates of the Caribbean. I love Johnny Depp doing all these things. That's not it. That is not it.
Yeah, I never saw that movie.
Oh, girl, it's a hoot. They have a
I
whole
heard it got a lot of attention.
a lot of different versions of it. But if you don't see 20 to 30% of that crew as Black, as Indigenous, as Latina or Latino, that's not it.
And which is interesting because when we look at pirate movies, we don't even expect to see ourselves in a pirate movie.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we expect to be underneath in the boat, in the bottom of the boat, and that was the wild thing that I actually loved the most is on the top of that ship. They didn't ask who you were. Mm-hmm. Often they didn't ask who you liked or loved or any. They said, "Can you rig the sails? Can you help power the ship? Yes. Are you willing to jump on the side of the boat and scrub barnacles off the hull so we don't sink?" And the big one is, if we go into battle and you have a sword in your hand, do I need to be worried that you're going to stab me instead of the enemy? Those are the questions. That's what formed your crew. It was, can you do the job? Mm-hmm. And so that's why it's everybody has one vote too. Everybody except the captain gets 2 votes, but everybody else gets 1 vote. So you have equality, a meritocracy, and it's about skills. So it's a very unique period in time, and I'm just very fortunate to be able to tell that story.
So
I love it. And one thing I can say is, yeah, the times, of course, were very different in the 1600s, but the emotions, the things that people faced, mm-hmm. are still prevailing today.
Very much so.
I mean, well, human nature really doesn't change. What changes is technology. Exactly. We're all humans, and we all have the same needs and flaws and failings. Those things it's the technology that changes, and or just the way it's all technology, because even the way people built ships from then till later on, all of that changed, but the human nature part and the captain, I guess they're still supposed to go down with the ship. I don't know. We haven't had any ship sinkings in a long time that I know of, not major.
Girl, there have been some activities in the Caribbean recently. Well, some people look at us as pirates now because we're taking out boats around the Trinidad and whatnot.
Well, I was just about to say, if you remember, like. And not so recent or not so far away.
They were a couple months ago.
A
couple months ago.
Yeah. But remember when they were talking about the Haitian pirates that were taking over ships.
Oh, yeah. Okay, that mm-hmm. was 2000s near Africa.
Yeah, this was just a few years ago.
Mm-hmm. Okay, and also the movie was wasn't it based on Somali pirates? Mm-hmm. The movie that they did with Tom Hanks in it.
Yeah, I forgot the name of the movie. But
wasn't it called Pirates?
No, it wasn't called Pirates.
It wasn't called Pirates. You sure?
It wasn't called Pirates. It was called
No, it
Captain.
was called Captain something. It was about the captain of the ship.
Yeah.
I forgot what the name. I didn't see the
And
movie. I just saw
they
like
said,
the
"I'm the
trailer.
captain now."
Yeah, yeah,
Mhm.
yeah,
Oh, I think we all saw that clip. Yeah.
yeah.
I saw the whole movie. The movie, I had never heard of the movie. I don't even know how I got into that movie because I had never heard of the movie, but I sat there and I watched that movie. I was like, oh, this movie is good. And
Okay.
come to find out the young men who played the pirates, that was their first time acting. And they did a
Oh,
great job.
okay. Yeah, I see it sometimes. What did you watch it streaming? Did you watch it on
Me?
streaming? Yeah.
No, I went to the movie
Oh,
theater.
you went to the movie theater. Okay, okay.
Yeah.
All right. Because I think I can pull it up on one of the streamings. I'm gonna check it out and see.
No,
So
everybody should be watching the pirate movies because they're
yeah,
good. They're good.
yeah. So Vanessa, how do you find time? Because you're writing historical fiction and romance. Your
And mystery.
romance are and mysteries,
Yep.
and your romances are series, so there's multiple installments. And then your historical fiction books are not small, they're not novellas. They're full, they are full. Let me see how many pages are in this book. Probably 400. I'm just pulling and see. No, 360, but
They're not
close.
small.
Wasn't it? Yeah, and the other one, The Queen of Exiles, was 500. Wasn't it 500 pages? That's the biggest one. But both of those are pretty hefty.
Yeah,
How do you find
Island
the
Queen, I think, is the
time to
biggest
write
one.
all of these
I
stories?
think Island Queen was the biggest one.
Okay, Island Queen. That's right. That was the first one.
Yeah.
Because I read that one. I haven't read the other ones yet. And
Oh, you should.
I have them. I have them. Girl, I have so many. This show has made my TBR explode. I do have the books though.
We appreciate you. We appreciate you. Appreciate
I
you.
don't get a chance to read them all, but how do you find the time to write all this stuff? How do you work it in? Are you writing from as they used to say, can't see to can't see? That's what they used to say in the country. Or dust to dawn.
Sometimes it feels like that, right?
Okay.
But you know, it's one of the things I'm very fortunate that when it comes to writing, I'm organized. So I try to make the most of my writing time. And then there's time frames where research is much more easy to do during certain times of the day. Libraries are open at, during, your 9 to 5 hours. If I'm trying to get something translated or going into archives, that's a daytime thing. I've always been a night writer. I mean, when I was when I was, you know, working in engineering, I would, get home 6 o'clock ish, be wifey, mommy, and put them suckers to bed, and then from 10 p.m. to 2 a.m. I was
Yes.
writing.
Yes.
Right?
Okay.
The
I'm a
house
night
is
writer too. That's
quiet.
when I write.
Yeah, the
At
house is
night.
quiet.
It's
I don't
quiet.
have to stop, right? I
Right.
can just
That's the only
keep
time I
going.
can write. It's like late at night, or sometimes if I can do it, I might wake up super early in the morning, maybe about 5 or 5:30, and try to get about an hour of writing in before it's time to go to work.
Exactly.
Yeah, I never do that. My brain does not turn on before 10. Not for like processing and heavy stuff. I'm a night person.
Mhm.
All the ideas and all that churning, that's at night.
Yeah, I'm
So
properly caffeinated before I get in there. I gotta have the caffeine.
that too. So congratulations on this latest
you.
book and bringing all of this information to the fore. Even though it is historical fiction, it's still the key word is historical. So we're learning things about all different
Absolutely.
periods of time in history. And that's 400 years ago. And 400 years from now, I wonder what people will be saying about us.
If we're writing in our journals, they'll be saying a lot.
Okay.
But if
I
we're
don't have a
not, we're gonna
Okay.
leave it to the important
Others.
people,
Others.
who society deems as important. That's the stories they'll focus on. But if we're
Mhm.
writing, we give future writers something to dig in to think about, and I think that's so important. Your stories are important out there, gang. So I need everybody to be journaling and telling
Love
us
it.
stuff.
Okay, well, have a great night. Thanks so much again, and congratulations once more on another great release.
Thank you.
Thank
Okay,
you. Bye.
bye-bye. Okay, so we are moving right along to our next guest. She is, Tony Benita said it's a very good read. She read it already. You know, Tony Benita is
Tony is
prolific.
on it. Doggone it.
I need to find out. I think she said she reads 2 books a week or something like that, but it might be even more than
I
that.
wish I had time to read 2 books a
Me
week.
too. I do too.
Barely have time to read 2 paragraphs a week. That's why I'm an audiobook girl.
Yeah, well, you know how I feel about that. But when I'm working on a book and reading books, then I have to choose my time frame of the day when I'm better at night with both, but then I have to decide which I'm going to do.
This is
And
why I'm looking forward to driving to New Orleans so I can have time to listen to my audiobook.
well, I hope the weather's good.
Oh, the weather's gonna be fine.
Yeah, every now and then there's a cold snap, but I hope
Mhm.
the weather's good. And um, it's going to be a great event. So our next guest is Constance W. Porter. And Miss Porter has a book called, do you have a copy of your book, Constance, that you can show us? And make sure you unmute also so we can hear you.
Here she is.
Okay. So it's the
So just
social
a big
justice of being
black.
Black in the United States.
Yes.
Okay, and what's in the pyramid on the bottom? It's a scale. It's a scale.
It's a spearmint. The first time I published it, I had put the scales of justice, but this is more like a teeter-totter for me. So,
Okay.
so I put the pyramid, and it says 7 centuries of Black history with commentary. Okay, and I
Okay.
I think that what makes it different about my book is that it gives a commentary to let you know what the significance is of the event. You know what I mean? And the one person who did the introduction to my book said
Mm-hmm.
that by seeing it chronologically done, it gives perspective, which is the one thing we don't have when we talk about Black history. Most of the time, we're dealing with an event or something around it, you know what I mean? But you never get to see the whole picture. And that really was what I was trying to shoot for. And so it has a chronological listing for 7 centuries because that's how long we've been in the slavery. That is really how long the United States, from the 1400s until now, is 7 centuries. And I think one of the most important things I wanted people to understand, if I listed you the dates of 1492, 1565, or 1619, and said, pick a date when we arrived, what would you say?
Well, see, that's sort of a trick question, but you have the answer in the question because you wouldn't have given us the oldest
All
date
three.
if that wasn't the answer. See, that's
True.
why I was good at multiple choice when I took tests in school.
You just figure it out, right? You good. Of course, it doesn't have to. It
It
helps
doesn't
if
always work, but but yeah, 1619 is when the indentured servants came. That's the year when most historians give us for when things start.
exactly.
And also the project, the 1619 project that
Yes.
received so many accolades and awards. That was very extensive.
I was very upset when that came out because it's what they gave us, but it's not real. I mean, we were here, we were not slaves, we were in Florida, Fort Mose. The Spanish had Florida, and it didn't become part of the United States until the 1800s. But they sent a black commander there to protect their territory. And there was a black town, the oldest black town in the United States. And I had, over the years since I started researching it, and it's been about 10 years, over the years, I have been amazed at what has been omitted because they're just, you know, there's just been so much change, and that is really the way that they have robbed us of our history. They've omitted what they found. Excuse me for a minute. Anthropologists in the 1500s, 1600s, 1700s, 1800s, 1900s all know that there were great African cities and towns and all over the continent. But when they found the information out, even our DNA, they simply changed it or erased it. Or the people who had the courage to publish it were quietly shoved to the side and said no. So our history, not only has it been changed, it's been forgotten, it's been omitted, it's been misquoted. You know what I mean? And that I watched 1619, the whole series. I laud the author. It's just that I knew more, and it was upsetting. Okay.
Well, you indicated that you're a historian yourself, and tell us a little bit about that. When did you first start researching the history, and did you specialize? Because most of the time, historians specialize in a period or a culture or people or whatever. So, tell us about that. When did you get started, and what did you focus on? I don't want to assume anything. So,
well, I mean, I go as far back as junior high school because they told me that about the Harlem Renaissance. I was fascinated. You know, I looked up all the authors, I read all the books on poems, Langston Huzora, you name it. And then, but I'm living in a time when there's Jim Crow. And I said, how did we go from the Harlem Renaissance to Jim Crow? Because I was growing up, a young lady in the 50s and 60s. I was in high school or just graduating high school when Martin Luther King started. You know what I mean? So I didn't understand. There were too many gaps, too many questions. And I hated history because of that, because I couldn't ever get the big picture. And so I started looking for myself because I know they weren't going to give me the history that I wanted. And I belonged to a church group in the 80s called Kujichagulia. If you're familiar with Kwanzaa, the seven principles, Kujichagulia is the second one, self-determination. And we brought African ministry to our church. And in the process, I would do, you know, histories to present at our annual affair, which was huge. I mean, the whole church turned out for it, you know, and we weren't a small church. But that is when I got interested in researching or learning more about things. And I just never stopped. In school, I was that little girl that said, why? Why? Well, why? You know, I had to answer my own questions.
Now, what did you? And I was just going to say, the fact that you asked why is really what fed into you becoming a historian. Because had you not asked why, it would not have fed your thirst for wanting to learn. So I love the fact that at a young age you asked why, and that hunger for learning, that thirst for wanting to know more, just stayed with you.
Yeah. Well, When it was time for me to graduate and I realized that my parents weren't going to have the money to send me to college, I kind of sent myself to college. I said, if Lincoln can do it, I can too.
I love it.
So I had a liberal arts education,
Love
majoring in Black history.
Well, where did you live? Where were you living? Where did you grow up, and then where did you end up going to school?
In Philadelphia, I lived in a middle class Black neighborhood. My father owned a grocery store. He was a butcher also. And it's in West Philadelphia, in Philadelphia. You know
Mm-hmm.
what I mean? And I I I was maybe over 10 before I understood what segregation was. We had our own world and we enjoyed, our life. We really didn't bother about what was going on in the rest of the world. We have our own community, our own life. You know what I mean? But there was one thing that used to bother me as a little one, and that is when we would go to the seashore. My father would put us in the car and drive us to the seashore. And Dad, I want to go in the water. No, we ain't going in the water today. Because Blacks couldn't go on the beach. I didn't know that. I
In
was
Philadelphia,
made
where was the beach?
Atlantic City.
Now, everybody always assumes that in the North, everything was cool and everybody got a chance to do whatever they wanted to do.
Hmm.
and that's not true.
And that's
No,
not true.
no, no, no. But the first time I ever met segregation, my auntie used to send me and my sister, older sister, 6 years, would send us to our auntie Lenora in Maryland, Snow Hill, Maryland, and we would, take the bus. And I got off in the bus station and they wouldn't serve me. And I did not understand why she wouldn't serve me. You know what I mean? And I stood there and I stood there and I stood there until she had waited on everybody and I was the only one left. And I said, now are you ready to wait on me? You know what I mean? I had to.
Now, did she wait on you
Yes.
after that?
Hmm.
She just wouldn't wait on you while there were white customers.
No, she wasn't gonna wait on me at all. I just insisted.
You just
Oh,
pursued
okay.
her,
Oh,
so she said
okay,
she was
you
gonna
made it.
wait on you.
Okay, you made it happen.
My
And
turn.
Maryland is normally not necessarily considered, an area where there was racism, but that's
There.
Annapolis is where Kunta Kinte in the Roots, that's where he landed when
Mm-hmm.
he was a slave
Mm-hmm.
off the slave ship. It was Annapolis, Maryland. So
Hmm.
yeah, and
Well, and I rewrote the book through times. I think I'm on my sixth edition, and the last time I did it, I completely reorganized it. But uh, Maryland, it was a very big slave state and racist. It wasn't until 1865 when a lot of the northern states gave up their racial thing. But uh, Maryland, Virginia, Texas, Florida, New York, Minnesota. When we got the Western Purchase, and the states that were part of slavery and very when they decided which states would be admitted, whether they would be slave or free, and the states that were slave states have kept true to their character. South Carolina, I mean, I remember when Kamala was running for president, and she had to win two states. South Carolina was one of them, and she devoted a lot of time there. But I have said, God, I wish I could send her a copy of the book because if she knew the history, she would change the expectation. You know what I mean? And so they haven't fallen. These apples haven't fallen very far from the tree. They just change how they operate. That's all.
yeah. Well, in a primary, she would probably do pretty well. is
Mm-hmm.
in South Carolina.
Mm-hmm.
It's because the Democratic Party is like in the 70% of the Democratic Party in South Carolina is Black voters.
Mm-hmm.
But the general election is where
Where
the
you have
where
pushback,
the county
yeah.
is.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm. I was, really knocked off my what do you say? They knocked my socks off when Georgia won the election for President Biden, and now they're telling me that a lot of Black middle class who are searching for a home, that they can searching for a place to live and grow their families are moving to Texas. And I'm hoping that what happened in Georgia happens in Texas. So
Well,
we'll
I
see.
tell people, I think I don't want to use that term. I was going to use one term, but I won't.
Um,
Texas, Texas is a red state, and it's not going to change anytime soon. And the reason is this: Austin is very blue.
uh-huh.
Harris County, which is the county that Houston is in,
Yeah.
like is blue
Uh-huh.
up to a certain part. But after that, the rest of the state is red. If you look at the map of the voting in
Mm-hmm.
the precinct counties in Texas,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
it's red with a smattering of blue.
Well,
So
Georgia is the same. Atlanta and Savannah are the two meccas where we uh, might go towards. And those two, they really did try to do everything they could to minimize um, the voting capabilities of those populations. But something strange happened. Even though they had shut down all the polling places, they opened up a sports arena and people voted like they were crazy. And that's what got them over the
yeah.
hump. You know what I mean? But it's that's amazing. I'm writing a new book. I actually
Okay.
have two. I
Okay.
have two books. One
And
is
is this second book historical as well?
it's going no, it's actually
History
my
related?
third. It's my
History.
third.
Oh, okay. But
Okay.
is it history related as well? That's what
Well, let me explain.
I mean. Okay.
My first book, which I wrote and published in 2017, was Dialogues with My Father Who Art in Heaven. And it was my spiritual experience, how God talked to me, and people weren't allowed to say God said. So I just wrote everything down. Somewhere along the line, I collected all the things that I wrote and the lessons that I learned, and I put them in a book. Okay. But in the process, you really, if you're going to say he said it, you got to show where and talk about what. And so I read a lot of Bible. All right. Then, you know, we had the social justice issue was very big at the time in the 20s, the 2020, 2018, so on. So I wrote about social justice and it published about the time the pandemic started. So nothing happened for a couple of years, and then I was on your show in 2022, which was was a real experience. But that's all. So what I found out is that Gwen, the religion and the Black history are together. I After I finished this book, which brought me as current as I could go, I started asking a different why. And the why was why us? Why are Black people chosen to be slaves? And in order to find out, I have to do world history now. I'm back to the 200s.
Oh, okay.
And I'm writing it all down. I'm researching it. I'm getting more than one opinion on everything. You know what I mean? I can't tell you how many programs I've watched and YouTube things that followed, so it's very, very interesting because to me it felt like the God particle. You know about the Hell reactor where they have 17 miles and they're smashing atoms together to see what happens. And this is where Black history and religion come together. They smashed together, and I said, oh my gosh. And I cannot believe what happened in the world between 200 and let's say 1400s. Those years were where they decided to still mute and change our history. And it all is Black history and religion.
So, what are you using for your sourcing for your new book?
I'm watching, well, actually, this book, The Social Justice of Being Black, is resourced a lot through the internet. And I encyclopedias, reading books, this, that, and the other. A 3-line article here might take me reading 5 different articles just on the internet to determine what is true, right, or closest to correct. And our history was, I can't even believe like something as simple as Black History Month. The different stories, tales, dates, and so on concerning that. And I know that people are reading my book because their narratives are changing. For example, we mentioned 1619 and the arrival of the slave ships, but I found out that the first ship carrying blacks was not a slave ship, and it came months before. And they make history unavailable. You know what I mean? That's the way things get lost, forgotten, and changed. So once I found out, I looked it up and I kept searching in different places until I found the name in the country and so forth. You know what I mean? And so there's a lot of ambiguity even around our history, and I had to sift it. And that's good.
Well, the first blacks were not slaves. The 1619 Africans that were brought here were not slaves. They were indentured servants.
Exactly. Well, I'm the one who wrote it. I wrote it 3 years ago, and that's when
I
the narrative changed.
I read about that as a kid.
Did you really?
Oh yeah,
because I did as well.
I grew up in Virginia, and Virginia is where they landed.
Yeah.
So I had to take Virginia history. Different states, you take the state history.
Exactly.
Like the Texas people who go to school in Texas take Texas history. So we had to take Virginia history. And that's where I learned it. 7th grade. I can tell you, my teacher's name was Crawford Smith.
Yeah. All right. Shout out to Crawford Smith.
I was curious. You mentioned I didn't catch everything that you said, but you said that when you had mentioned Black history, there was I guess there was something that I guess that people didn't realize about Black history, and I wanted you to elaborate on that when you were talking about Black History Month.
Yeah. Oh, okay. It used to be just a day, and who expanded it to a week, and when they expanded it was changing from one site to another. You know what I mean? So I had to go searching to find out, the more and the rest of the story before I listed it. This book is chronological, and it does give you an overview of what happened in every century. You know what I mean? So the things didn't line up. Like, for example, remember, say their names. Well, before they had say their names, I did. I at one edition of my book, I had all the listings of people who were murdered by the FBI or by authority, let's say. And when I started looking it up, all you got was a 30-second blurb on the news. I put the names, the dates, the events happened, what happened, and where, what the reason was for the killing. And then I found out that the Washington Post lists killings by year for the last 15 or 20 years. And if you go to their site, you can find out that there are over 1,000 killings per year. It's only the big ones that we get to see. You know what I mean? But, for everything that there is, for every explanation of an event, you have other events that correlate or are not, totally, the most information is not given. And that the kind of missing history that I'm talking about. Like we know about what's 1920 Wall Street Massacre, but the Wall Street Massacre and the 1920s were both, horrific, but leading up to that, there's just so many more.
You mean when you said the Wall Street, you mean Black Wall Street, correct?
Black Wall Street, yeah.
Tulsa.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But
even in modern times, and this is not history, this is just modern times. Just seeing things on social media, when somebody posts something and I know it's questionable or it may or may not be true, whatever, I always check 3 or 4 or 5 different sources before. I don't share anything. Some people just see something and share it. They claim somebody was dead last week. And I said, no, he's not. Let me go look. Barry Gordy. They said Barry Gordy had died. I mean, don't claim somebody's death and just share it because you saw it somewhere. Go and check. Go check. Yeah. And now AI can actually make up stories that are very believable about people and situations. Mm-hmm. So it's going to become, one, more and more difficult to confirm history, but 2, more and more necessary to confirm.
Exactly. You are a woman after my own heart because you want to know, okay, what's real?
Right.
Well, if I may interject, I will say that this is a good time for this book. Because this is the 100th anniversary of Black History Month. And Black History Month started as Black History Week by Carter G. Woodson. And the reason why it was Black History Week is because it fell between
Washington
and it fell between two
Lincoln and
Lincoln's birthdays.
And Frederick Douglass, yeah.
Right. Was it yeah, and then eventually expanded to Black History Month. So many people say, well, why did they give us the shortest month of the year? The month was not given to us. It just happened to fall in February. That's the reason why we have
it was the birthday of those two gentlemen.
Right. And that's what I'm saying. But you hear a lot of people say, oh, they just the shortest month of the year.
That's not what happened.
And I tell people all the time that is not true. It just so happened to fall in February because of those two birthdays. And you're right, it was Frederick Douglass and I believe Abraham Lincoln. I always forget the two birthdays, but the Negro History Week fell between those two birthdays, which both happened to fall in February. And then it wound up expanding to the entire month of February. So that's why I said this is a good time for your book. And so I thank you for spreading, using your thirst for knowledge to spread more knowledge and to help us to learn more about our history. And this is a good time for this book. So I know we've run out of time, but I just wanted to thank you for your book. And this is a good time to buy this book. So everybody, I put the link to this book in the chat. So please click the link and purchase this book so we can continue to learn more about our history.
Thank you so much, Gwen and Dr. Rhoda. I appreciate being with you, and I hope we get the word out. All right. Have a good one.
All right. Thank you so much. Have a great night.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Okay, she was referring to, and I don't know if you were on that night, Rhonda. The last time she came on, which was in 2022, we couldn't get her on. It's like her link, she couldn't figure out the link. I think we only had the sound on that
that's
night.
what happened.
We could only hear her, not see her. And we kept trying, and then eventually we just said, okay, just let's keep going. So I'm glad we were able to get everything done this time. So our next guest, and I'm assuming the name is different from what I have on here, but we'll see. It's Casey Marshall, but it says Laverne Davy, and so I don't know.
To find out.
We're about to find out. So let's see when she comes on screen, and she is a poet, and she has a new book. And I wonder if she walked away from her computer, or
well, she's gonna come back.
Yeah. So just while we're waiting for her to come on, just remind people about your upcoming event, like for a minute or so, since we have time.
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
First of all, if you were in a New Orleans area, you probably saw me on Great Day, Louisiana this morning. I was talking about the Black History Month Literary Weekend. It was a great segment. I was on for 6 minutes. And also last night, I announced the winners of the For the Culture Book Awards, as well as the 8th grade Black History Month essay contest. We're not going to have a 9th grade winner this year, but we will have a 1st and 2nd place winner of our essay contest. So I'm very excited about that. We announced those winners last night, and I'll be posting those winners this week. And we'll be awarding those winners in person at the Ivory and Cream Affair Jazz Brunch on February 21st.
Okay, great. Congratulations to the winners. And Casey Marshall, thank you for coming on. If you could unmute your mic, we were waiting for you to come on. So she was telling us about her upcoming event. And also it says Laverne Davy. So I don't know, is that your real name, your pen name, or what?
Yeah, well, Laverne Davis is my government name.
Oh, okay. All right. Casey Marshall is the name you write under.
Is my pen name, yeah.
Okay. All right.
Sorry about that.
You might want to change it on your.
I didn't realize it was going to come up.
That's okay. No, I don't mean right now, but I mean for future reference.
I will.
Mm-hmm. So if you're coming, if you're doing interviews about your book under your pen name. So and your new book is called Illuminations.
Mm-hmm.
So do you have a copy of it?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I think you need to put it closer to your body. To your body, and then pull it up. Okay, right there. So and this is a book of poetry. Is it poetry or is it okay? So you are a poet, and this is your book number
2.
Okay.
But I also write. I'm also an author. My first book was a novel. This is my first published book of poetry, even though I've written poetry like for most of my life.
Okay. So why Illuminations?
Well, it speaks to different paths that we take every day in our life, and it sheds some light on some of the things that we take for granted and that we could use maybe some extra thoughts about. So it just gives it a little bit of shine or a little bit of light on some of those everyday paths.
Okay, and so how is your poetry book organized?
Well, I have 9 poems, in there. I have 2 letters. And I also have 3 short stories in there.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, it's fun, quick, entertaining. It's also a strong read for Black history.
Okay.
I like the fact that it's almost like an anthology, that you have poetry in there as well as short stories.
As well as short stories, and two letters in there. One is a letter to my ancestors, or our ancestors, the ones that carried us through the fire. You
Yes.
know, and I think I've never taken the time to write down the reasons that I appreciate their struggle, and so that's what this letter kind of provides, is that um, light to look at the struggle they had and the strength and courage they displayed, to make it through that, so that we have the opportunities we have.
Yeah, I think a lot of people don't appreciate the dignity that our ancestors were able to uh, hold, uphold in the face of all the things that they had to go through, and they still had hope and they had faith. They didn't give up. They weren't, um, they didn't have a defeatist attitude.
This is why
They
I
didn't
don't like
complain.
this is why I don't like those t-shirts that say I'm not
Right,
my
I'm not
own.
my ancestors. And they're probably right, but in a different way, because they don't know how strong their ancestors had to be
Exactly.
to deal with what they had to do, but still hope and plan for the future. They weren't waiting on somebody to do something for them. They worked and they instilled in the future generations the idea that you could work hard and become whatever you set your mind to. Your imagination was the only thing holding you back. And it didn't mean that you would get everything you want, because nobody gets everything they want. That's true. But if you don't shoot for something, you won't get there. You know,
Yeah,
you
yeah,
have to have a
I like
goal.
that. Hmm.
It takes a strong person to say, I'm going to keep my wits about me. I'm not going to, as they say, crash out, you know,
Mhm.
because there's something bigger than me happening right now. Or
Hmm.
I need to the safety of my family. This is more important than me saving face at this moment. Or the safety of my family, or the future of my family is more important than me getting a win at this moment.
Yeah, and like you're saying there, Dr. Rhonda, it's something to think about, the fear that they could have given into, the anger, the hopelessness and things. But for some reason, every morning they slept on the ground, but every morning they got up and said, "I'm gonna make it through one more day."
Yeah.
And so that says to me that I need to run on, even if I don't see the clear end or the path, or feel like I have the strength or the right or anything, but I should run on, and I should take all the strength and opportunities I have to make a path for myself and for someone that can come behind me.
Mhm. They were
Exactly.
also very resourceful. I mean,
Yes,
they would take a little bit and do so much with it,
yes, yes.
And then they learned how to it was almost like, how squirrels will save the nest for the winter. They
Yeah.
would can vegetables and fruit, and they learned how to salt the meat to make it last through the whole winter. And they also shared. They also had a
Yes,
sharing
yes.
community where
Hmm.
they share their resources. So and that they're the reason that we're here is because they did those things.
Because they kept their faith and their
Yes,
strength.
they did.
Every day they had to renew and keep going. And I mean, just horrendous treatment. I mean, I think when I look at some of the youth and things today, I think they don't have anywhere near the strength that our ancestors had or had to have, you know, in order to give us the chance to come along. You know, I know my family is 5 generations away from slavery. Because my grandfather lived so long, we learned a lot of stories. He lived to 107, so we learned a lot of the stories of the of our family and things. And I mean, it was absolutely horrendous. And then once he and his father were freed from slavery, they had to work. I mean, had to work for just pennies, you know, every day. And I just thought, how terrible. It's like you've worked for like 30 years already for nothing. You know, that should be, you should be on a retirement plan by now, you know, but they kept going and took it in stride. He was always goodwilled, good natured. My great grandmother was a herbologist. They said she could take anything out of the field, make a poultice or a medical type, you know, solution for you. And they did. They lived off of the land. I mean, even to my father, and he said they never went to a grocery store, you know, and my grandmother made every stitch of clothing that they wore.
Yeah.
So it
Yeah,
wasn't
they made
about,
all
you
their
know,
own
shopping.
clothes.
Yeah, all these big labels that everybody's trying to, you know, find now, that was just totally unheard of and absolutely useless. I still think that we do take that a little bit too far. And I have a poem in the book called Label Whore. So
Oh.
it puts some light, it puts some light on, you know, where we're using our resources and what kind of labels we're getting for those resources. So it's like I said, that's where Illuminations is taking. And I mean, got a variety of different subjects, even considering the youth and the suicide rate. You know,
Yeah.
it's something in there for everybody, you know, to think about and to maybe even be touched. And then some, like Labor Horror, there's some poems in there that are humorous, and some are political, you know, some are faithful. And it's a lot to um, put into a kind of a lyrical sense that, you know, that you would think a little deeper about something that is very common. I like to say that my poems have these four things. They have the mirror of reality. They have the comfort of love. They have the slap in the face of truth, and they have the crunch of time. So if I have time, I'd like to take an excerpt from each or from some of those poems in there and give you an
This is
example.
your time. Come on.
Oh, well, thank you. I'd like to give you an example of some of the things in the way some of the poems are fit those descriptors. So when I say the mirror of reality, here's an excerpt from my poem called Keys. It says, the struggle is real for both you and me. Still, we Black queens will always fight to keep you free. No matter the pain, time, or degree, we know your worth, even in your time of need. And we Black queens will be your bridge when troubled waters you cross, because we ain't scared and we ain't lost. Okay, that's Keys, and that's just a short portion. That's just a short portion of it. The
I want to
comfort.
hear Label Whore.
I didn't put it. I can read it. I can read it.
Of course, you don't have to read the whole. Depending on how long it is, you don't have to read the whole thing. But I want to know where you're going with it.
Let
How
me see.
you kick it off and where you're going with it.
Okay, let me give you because I'm not even going to start at the beginning. Well, actually, I think I might. Here's and I put pictures. I put pictures, to give you some, you know, additional sensory perception. So, label horror. I'm not sure how much of this I should read, but you would like it. Let me just read this as quickly as I can.
Okay.
It says, haters. Oh, I'm sorry. My
No, we hear
computer.
you.
Oh yeah, my computer. Yeah, kind of went to another place. Um, Labor whore. Haters, just step back. Whenever I walk by, catch your breath and close your mouth. Oh yes, I know I'm so fresh, clean, and fly. Designer labels head to toe. Go ahead and stretch your eyes. I'm just way too good for you. Ha, you can't deny. It's okay if you're curious. So just to name a few, on casual days and morning strolls, I wear my Jimmy Choos. When I have a business deal, I'm easy, breezy, slick, walking strong and tall in, I'm sorry, walking strong and long and tall in Manila Blahniks. When I'm out on the town for a dressy affair, I rock a Ferragamo suit and Stuart Weitzman pumps and Oprah Winfrey hair. Don't even stand next to me. My style is way too hot. You're gonna fall to your knees and want to call the cops. Excuse me. Um, if I am going shopping, I have to look real cute. No, no less than Chanel and tweed or a fair Bruno Cusinelli suit. Haters see me coming and start to sweat because they recognize the swag. They all wish they had my game and my Hermes bag. I wear so many labels, I really should be getting paid. But they're not my true identity. So who's really casting shade? No matter what name you call me by, I march on just the same. I advertise them boldly, loyally. Oh shucks, what is my name? So I supersize their names. My glasses are blurry, my eyes are watering. Sorry. Um, I supersize their names just um, just like on a blimp. They need to cut me a check. Instead, I'm getting pimped. How much? Wait a minute. How much am I worth? My country physically and capital democracy. I know their names. Do they know mine? Oh, why, that's sheer hypocrisy. Oh, now what shall I do? Ain't no more time to play. I did the math, took a reality path, dressed in golden label cash. I'm sorry. I ain't worth Blue Man Chew. So so take a lesson from me. Don't be a label whore. The only real label that gets you is for your, let me see, I'm sorry, excuse me for my eyes is watering. Your own name is much more important than all of theirs. I pray that you will see your real true wealth is your mental health. This is my label plea.
Okay. So you mentioned a lot of labels in there, and
You mentioned a couple labels that I like.
now I will say I like some labels for the quality of the clothes or how they fit me, but I never pay full price for any of them. I get at least 50% or more off, because
Mm-hmm.
I refuse to pay full
Oh, I
price.
like this sale. I'm not even gonna
Yeah.
lie.
I do. Nordstrom Rack is my go-to place And
Yeah.
if I do Chico's, I use the coupon, my discount, and I'm discounted and sailed up. So I don't. But sometimes it's for the quality, but not for somebody to look and say, I don't like clothes that have the label like written on the front of it. Like I'm really that's really like advertising the person.
Yeah, I don't want to be anybody's walking billboard.
No, me either. Me either.
That's kind of where the real true point is that you're basically giving your wealth to somebody else,
right?
And what are they giving you? What are they giving you back in return? So,
well, for some people, it's status in their minds, but it's not status. And clothes. The thing about some labels, they do last.
Yeah,
like they are. You can wear them for 5 years or maybe more than that. If you buy something cheap, you walk sometimes. Like I bought something in Walmart once to wear, and I washed it and it lost the color. Look, like once it was. So I don't, unless it's a name like underwear. There's a name brand underwear. I don't buy any clothes in Walmart. I don't even. In fact, I'm getting ready to be a grandma, and I'm not even gonna buy my baby clothes in Walmart for the new baby. I'm going to Nordstrom Rack, which is discounted good stuff.
Yeah, it is. It really is. And I really appreciate the quality of many of the labels, but I see too many people spend, good money, big money when they really don't have the wealth or
right.
the income. They're just trying to, validate themselves with somebody else's name and somebody else's label. And that's the real point, is that sad, is that we're using their name to validate ourselves. What about our own name? I think we need to work harder to really validate our own name in what we put out in the world and in the community. So that's the point. It was written to, be funny to a degree, but to think about, which, they, their name. Do they know who you are? Do they give anything back to you or your community? So, you really need to think about, because this is your wealth. I mean, maybe you'd be better served than sending my husband is a school teacher, and he says kids come to school in designer labels and don't have a pencil or pen or a notebook or a piece of paper. So maybe your money would be better spent, in maybe saving for college funds or something really, maybe investment property, something really worthwhile for your own self and maybe even for your future generations. But what can I just
in fairness, I'm sorry, in fairness, we are applying adult thinking to teenagers. And unfortunately, teenagers are not thinking that way. And if a teenager is going to school and getting teased for the way they're dressed, or if they're seeing the person who is popping labels, getting all of the attention, and they're going to school and, right now, it's trendy to go to the thrift store. It wasn't trendy to go to the thrift store back when I was growing up.
Right.
We were ashamed to go to the thrift store when we were kids.
Yeah.
We didn't want to tell anybody where we went to the thrift store. But now it's cool. I'll tell people I got this suit from the thrift store. We'll tell people that. But we didn't want to tell people that back when we were kids. So, we're applying adult thinking to children. And it's not fair to do that, because the kids aren't thinking that way. We have to remember, these kids are going to school and getting teased every day for the way that they look and the way that they're dressing. And it's going to take a mature way of thinking to look at it that way.
But at some point, we've got to change the culture and the traditions so that our children understand we really need for you to think beyond this particular time. And yes, it's not something that's going to happen overnight. I mean, we started dressing and even using the term clean to really say to people, I am clean. Because at some point we barely had soap and water, you know. So we used that term, and being dressed was a way to feel validated and accepted, you know.
I found out, I did not find out until I was an adult, that I went to school with somebody who was homeless. And this person went to school early, like way early before everybody else.
Mm-hmm.
So they could freshen up in the bathroom and get clean before everybody else got to school.
Mm-hmm.
And nobody knew this. I didn't find out until I met this person years later as an adult, and the person confided in me and told me what was going on. This is what our kids go through on a daily basis. And a lot of us didn't realize this until COVID happened. We didn't realize that there were people who were not eating until they got to school. And that's how they got at least breakfast and lunch. And we didn't know that the kids were not getting clean until they got to school. And then when school closed because of COVID, they weren't getting clean and they weren't eating, and they were sitting on the street with their mother or father because they had nowhere else to go. I remember driving home from work and seeing a kid with his backpack sitting next to his mother. They were homeless. They were sitting on the street. So I mean, so that's why I'm saying I think we've got to stop applying this adult thinking to kids, because they're only going by what they see.
That's the point. We have to at some point change the culture and the tradition so that these different ways of thinking become, you know, normal and passed down to the generations, like you said. Now, because when I grew up, we didn't even have designer labels. It was like everybody went to Goodwill and Kmart. You know, we didn't have no designer names and stuff like that. So no, we weren't. Well, it was somewhat shameful if everybody knew you got clothes from Goodwill, but at the same time, everybody knew a lot of us did, you know, get that. But I just see such exorbitant amounts of money spent, you know, on things and on people that just do not have the income to support that type of that type. And it just hurts. Like, you know, my husband was saying, you send your kid to school with $1,000 on his back, and you don't have a pencil, you don't have a piece of paper. Then when it's time to go to college, you don't have any type of funds to help them. And then all these Asian and European people's labels, you've made their wealth generational. You've given your wealth and everything that could have been supportive for you. You've given it to them and made them richer and given them generational wealth. So
sometimes it requires people to look at the big picture, but lots of times we just see what's in front of us. Now, my mom used layaway to great effect. We didn't know anything about Goodwill or thrift stores or garage sales. My father was a pastor, and so my mother she was big on being dignified, but she used layaway to great effect. All of our clothes, when we got Easter clothes, and we didn't get clothes all the time. That was the other thing. You didn't get clothes all the time.
Oh no.
We got clothes when school first started.
Mm-hmm.
You might get something for Christmas.
And we're going to get that Easter dress.
Easter. But my mother put it all in layaway. And that when they got rid of layaway, that forced people onto credit cards, or maybe it happened
Yeah.
kind of simultaneously.
And
Mm-hmm.
I thought layaway was a thing. I didn't know that the expensive stores didn't have layaway. I didn't know that was a poor person thing.
Yeah.
No, that was where did she learners? I don't even know if it still exists now, but
No.
that was a go-to store
Mm-hmm.
for our clothes. And she would put it all in layaway and pay on it. And then, and she had 4 children. So, that's a lot, it's a lot of money for now. But back
Yeah.
then it was too. That,
Yeah.
you had to really plan. That's why I said
Really fun.
they really um, were geniuses in terms of just making a dollar stretch, like
Stretching.
so they're
Mm-hmm.
holler, they just really, um, God bless them, because they really created an environment for us where we were safe. Our needs were met, and we didn't miss any meals. I know there were people who did, but um, my parents, I never missed a meal. And the closest I came to missing a meal was after I became an adult and was on my own. Trying to
That's
figure
when I missed it.
I didn't miss them, but I had to figure stuff out. You take a lot of stuff for granted till you have to get out here and make it on your own.
Yeah. Well, ladies, oh, I'm sorry.
And we're at the end of our time. And it's
Oh my
time for
goodness, we passed our time.
I know
This
we're 1 minute.
conversation got so good. I normally keep track of this.
No, Rhonda's normally the timekeeper. So anyway, thank you
Well,
so much.
it's been enjoyable. I really appreciate it. I wanted to share a few more excerpts with you, but maybe the next time. And I appreciate you guys for giving me the opportunity and the platform. It's been a real pleasure.
Same here.
Thank you for your book, and thank you for sharing your truths, and thank you for bringing so many things to light. This is what we need, and for starting this conversation, we appreciate it.
Oh, thank you so much. God bless, and you guys take care and keep going, keep doing this.
Okay. Have a great night.
Okay, you too.
Okay. All right. We've had a lot of history tonight. Just
Yes, absolutely.
different levels, different time periods. And this next final guest, her book is somewhat historic too, but it's fictional. But to me, it seems like it's really based on something real. So Christina Hammonds Reed, welcome to Black Authors Matter TV.
Thank you so much for having me. I was just watching you guys on Facebook right now.
Oh, you were? Okay.
Okay. Listening to the conversation, right?
See, you're one of those people who start watching it on Facebook and get so carried away you forget to log in, right?
That does happen. So you have a new book called The Johnson Four, and I know that it is probably loosely based on the Jackson Five. That's the first thing that came to my mind, because it's about a singing group from the past. So put the book up again, because it was so quick. It was like a flash. And and you have vinyl on there.
And and the bell bottoms.
Yeah, right?
You got vinyl.
And the butterfly collars, kind of like what I have on right now.
Yes.
And the different colors. The colors.
Yeah, we worked on trying to make sure we got I actually used as one of the inspirations for telling the artist one of Michael's first appearances on television. So I was like, let's try and use that as the inspiration.
And that looks like
on the Ed Sullivan Show.
It is a very thick book, so it's
a
textbook.
It is, but it's big print, I think. Isn't it a YA book?
No, it's actually an adult book. It's
not a YA book. I thought it was a YA book. Because your other book was.
Yes, my first book was a YA book, and this was sort of a departure from that. It's an adult book. It's very firmly for adults, and it's loosely based on. Not loosely based. I should say that the Jackson Five were an inspiration for the characters, but completely departs from their story altogether. So it's the story of these three boys who are trying really hard to be like the Jackson Five. And on their way home from a failed audition, they encounter this little baby minstrel ghost who then stows away with them and changes the entire course of their lives. So it's this family epic that spans from like 1969 to 1995, as we watch the boys grow up and see where their paths diverge. And yeah, it was really fun to actually get to write for adults after writing the YA.
Nice.
Okay. Now, the first book was called The Black Kids,
Mhm.
and that was a YA book. And uh, this this book are the two books connected in any way?
No, they're completely different. So completely different takes. I guess there are some like thematic things though that are going on. Like it's definitely it's still looking at race and privilege, and especially with the Johnson Four, it's looking at fame as it relates to how one has to present in the world. So like what does it mean to these Black entertainers to have to be uh, representative of all of us, and what is that burden that sometimes is carried and the expectation, but also like how Blackness is allowed to show up in those ways, right? Like we see how people treated Whitney sometimes, or how Michael was allowed to be treated, and they had to perform a very particular kind of Blackness to be accepted by the mainstream popular culture. So it's looking at that. Um, and looking at family, because the family is always kind of at the heart of everything I want to do. So yeah, there's a lot of through lines between the two that are similar, but overall they're very different books.
Okay, and you got started writing because of what?
Oh, that's a long question. That's a long answer rather. So I started when I was a kid. I was one of those kids who always wanted to write, and I was reading and writing, and my parents even enlisted me in this writing summer camp. But when I got to college, I was like, that's not practical. That's not a good way to make money. So I doubled with English and political science, and then afterward, I went to film school, which was not practical at the time. I thought it was, but I did the film school, but I kept coming back to short story writing and fiction writing. And after a long, long time, I finally sort of am like, this is what I really want to be doing. And I transitioned back into short story writing, and the short story that I had published ended up becoming the novel, The Black Kids. And then from there, I was like, okay, I can kind of write a novel now. Let me try doing this in the adult world. But I actually had the idea for this before I had The Black Kids written as a novel, but it was kind of like I needed to work my way up to writing such an epic thing.
Okay. Okay. Now, what was the Black Kids about exactly? Just the overall. Give
Yeah,
us
so
a synopsis.
the Black Kids is about Ashley, who is a very privileged girl in 1992 on the eve of the LA riots. And it's actually kind of coming to terms with her Blackness in when she goes to this very like elite private school. And the riots force her to examine like who her friends are, where she belongs, looking at her family differently. And it's really coming of age story, but it's also Ashley coming into her own self as a Black person at this time with the backdrop of the riots and how they inform like how she begins to see herself as part of a larger community as opposed to sort of with her little private school friends.
Okay, yeah, that's going to a
Yeah.
private school as and being one of a few Black people. I don't know if that's ever been easy. Um, and even up until like my daughter went to when was she would okay 3 years she went to a very very white private school. She went to private school from K through 9, but the seventh, eighth, and ninth was when she went to because the other school didn't go up to, a lot of the private schools, they only go up to a certain grade. They're not necessarily K through 12 or whatever. And she did up until first grade, was it first or second? She was in an all Black environment in private school. So
Oh,
so she had a really good foundation, a sense of self. She didn't have to deal with the um any kind of prejudice or just now, people who are wealthy, their kids can be some of the meanest people
Mhm.
or the actually sometimes I feel like it's not as much I mean, wealthy kids can be mean, but the kids who think they're wealthy or the kids who want to be wealthy, they're actually the worst ones. They're actually worse than the actual wealthy kids.
Oh, you think so? Well, the wealthy ones are pretty bad.
No, well, I mean, see, you have to realize, see, I'm in the military environment and I live in Prince George's County. So
Okay.
so
Okay.
so we see people who often you they have a little bit of status because they have a little bit more than the average person.
Okay.
But they may not have as much as the actual wealth.
Okay.
But because they have a little bit more than the average person, they try to put themselves on the same level playing field as the person who has the actual wealth. And so they start to look down their nose at certain people and they want to pretend that they're better than. Or they think they start to feel that they're better than. And they start to be a little bit mean about it.
Okay. They could be more, they could be worse. When I went to Georgetown, that was when I experienced the mean wealthy people and being only one of a few Black people. And the wealthy people were even mean to white middle class people. They were just mean, you know. So
and
with
don't
us,
get me
we were
wrong. I mean, yeah,
invisible.
there are people mean. Like, for instance, like I said, I was in a military environment, and there was a time when I sent my daughter on a trip. And I was out of town, so she needed money for the trip, and because I was out of town, I wasn't able to get her the money. And a white girl who, I guess her mother, I think her parent was an officer who was able to give her a lot of money, maybe even give her a credit card, and said, well, why don't you just have your mom put some money on your credit card for you? And she was like, well, my mom's not here, she can't do that. Oh, so your mom can't do that? Your mom can't put the money on the card for you? You know, very, very mean and snide.
Very, very condescending.
Right. So I get what you're saying. So yeah, I mean, there's mean on both sides. There's mean wealthy people, and then the mean want to be wealthy people because they have a little bit more than the average person. So that's all I'm saying.
I agree, though. I think there's like levels. Everybody wants to look down on somebody, right?
Exactly. And
that's
exactly what it is, Christina. Everybody wants to feel that they can look down on somebody else.
Mm-hmm. And then it just gets complicated when you add race into it as well. So
yes, it does.
Yeah.
It does. In some ways, it gives them more license to be mean.
Yeah.
You know, so there was interesting take on that. And so how did people respond? Like your book is for young adults or teenagers. Like, what kind of feedback are you getting from the young people reading your book? Well,
So
the Black kids first.
Yeah. So the Black kids was definitely for young people, and I actually had a really wonderful response to that. Like, I had a lot of teenagers who are passionate about the book and would even try and DM me. I spoke to kids in schools, and it's just been a very like affirming thing to be able to speak to young people and to hear their voices and to hear how it sort of how it connected with them, especially because it came out in 2020. So it was when everything was happening at that time. So there were a lot of parallels between 2020 and 1992 in terms of what we were talking about with policing and media and how media shapes how we interpret certain events and all of these different conversations that we were having that the kids were really finding that it resonated with them. And even recently, I went to go speak to a group of kids, and then they were still like really invested in it. So it was really lovely. But for this book, I'm excited because it's a whole different demographic, because this is definitely for grown folks.
Okay, see, I thought it was for like young people, so
no.
children or young adults. So
Yeah, no,
so I'll get a copy because I want to see what kind of parallels, what kind of you do with the Johnson Four as opposed to the Jackson Five.
Yeah, so it just, I mean, it starts with them wanting to be like the Jackson Five, but they're very
Mhm.
both similar and different family. They actually fail their audition for somebody who's like a stand-in for Berry Gordy. But they are trying so hard, and they have these parents who are really pushing them. The father is very like, this is what we need to do to sort of rise above racism at this time and to elevate our status. And he's very much invested in making his kids almost safe from the racism of the time. But it backfires in a lot of ways. And the ghost that comes into their lives really um, greatly transforms the trajectory of their lives. So it follows them all the way from when they're like 12, 13, 14 to when they're in their late 20s. So it's really like and we get the perspectives of the parents and of other people who come into their lives. So it's definitely a far more adult book. I wouldn't recommend it for teenagers.
Oh, okay, okay.
Yeah.
So,
I'm glad you
so
put that out there like
yeah.
that.
Yeah, I was like, do not give this to your
Okay,
15-year-old. It isn't for
okay,
mature grown people.
okay. Since you said there were parallels, uh, did you like watch Jackson Five documentaries, or how did you? Because you're a young person, so you didn't grow up with the Jackson Five, or even the Jacksons, or Michael. What did
Oh, I
so
grew up with
you
Michael.
grew
I'm
up
not
with
as young as I
Michael?
look.
Okay, you're not that young. Okay, so how did you like? What did you do for your research
Oh, I did
on
a lot. I think
Jackson Five?
it's kind of lovely because it was the music that I was immersed in growing up because it's the music that was kind of the soundtrack of my parents' childhoods too. So it
Okay.
was I was always listening to oldies music, oldies at the time. And so it was music that was kind of already in my heart, but then to do research, I was immersing myself in the music and reading different biographies. I read a whole bunch of different celebrity biographies. Michael Jackson's was one of them, but also Mariah Carey's and Britney Spears and um, oh my goodness, Matthew Chandler, the guy who played Chandler. I can't remember his name right now. I'm pregnant, so I have pregnancy brain.
Oh,
Um, but I read a bunch of different celebrity biographies, and I read Lamont Dozier's book, and
okay.
he was one of the big songwriters for
For
Motown. So it
that
was just kind
time.
of, yeah. So it was a lot of like just trying to, and what else did I read? I read the Ronettes, or yes, the Ronettes, biography or wonderful biography. So it was really just trying to watch and read and listen as much as possible, to get a better sense of things. Because even though I'd grown up sort of hearing this stuff and imagining and reading all kinds of books, I wanted to make sure that I was getting things accurate on the page as much as possible. And especially because the book spans all of these different worlds. We eventually go into Vietnam, and I wanted to make sure I got the Black
Mhm.
experience of Vietnam because it was a very different thing than what the white experience is portrayed as. And we go into a mental institution, so I wanted to sort of see how that's treated and how a Black child might have been treated within that capacity in the 60s and 70s versus now. I just like all these different worlds that I really had to like deep dive into, which is why it ended up taking me so long. Um, but it's fun. I really like research. I'm a history buff, so if I could, if
Tell.
I might go back and like do a whole history PhD because I really love just putting it on the page and investing these characters' lives and weaving all of this in. So yeah, it was fun for me. I like research. I kind of have to be pulled back a little bit because I get a little too into it.
Yeah, a lot of people, uh, young people in this era, they would probably be surprised at how big the Jacksons were as a
Yeah,
Yeah.
group. They were a phenomenon.
yeah.
Um, and they had a cartoon series about them.
I remember the
Um,
cartoon. I used to like the cartoon, and I don't feel like it lasted very long.
No,
I don't
it's just
think
a few
it did.
seasons, I think, if I
Mm-mm.
remember correctly.
Yeah.
But it all kind of happened at the same time. It was like they were hot and everything. It was about, everything was hot that they were doing. Um, and then during the time that they came on the scene and were really exploded, and I don't know this for a fact, but I think everybody suspects it. Everybody black suspects it. the Osmonds, that was a group, a family group that
Yeah.
they created to
Yeah.
kind of compete
Yeah.
because the Jackson Five got so big
Yeah.
that it was like they had to have somebody else.
Mhm.
And in the Osmonds, even I think it was the same number of people,
Yeah.
and they even tried to do some of the dance moves, which they couldn't do. but, but they created them just so it was like they couldn't allow the Jacksons to get all of the thunder. They had to create a counter. Uh,
Yeah.
and
Well,
so,
and that continues, right? Like we see sort
yes.
of over the
Mhm.
trajectory of the last how many years where you have a really successful Black pop group and then they create imitators to sort of respond to that, thinking that they're going to resonate in that same way with audiences. But it's sometimes I actually think it kind of links back to the ghost in my book in terms of minstrelsy and what that looks like in terms of people performing Blackness for white audiences, right? Because that's what it is essentially. It's like, oh, well, we don't think that they're palatable, but if we put this like group of Mormon white kids like the Osmonds in front of them, then maybe they'll be just as palatable or more palatable to certain people who wouldn't tune into a Black family. So
Mhm.
it's all connected, right?
Mhm. Yeah.
Mhm.
But there was all of the Motown was just really just an amazing thing. There's
Yeah.
a documentary, I think it's on Netflix or Hulu, one of them, about Motown that actually is very Gordy and Smokey Robinson
Yeah.
doing the narrative in there, and it just really takes you all the way through all those Motown years and the things that they were doing to and all the success they had. And one thing that they really wanted to have a classy, that was their thing. Like all of their groups had class and they had dignity and style. And they even took etiquette classes. And, it was just, uh, Barry Gordy did a really good job with that. A lot of them didn't get paid, but, that was the industry
Yeah.
overall. And that didn't change over time. The industry cheats people
Very
out
much
of
so.
their money. That's what they do. That's the whole setup, is to cheat the artist.
Yeah.
And
And especially then, they weren't getting any royalties. People weren't getting songwriting credits who deserved them.
right,
And imagine
right,
being just a young person in that space, because that's kind of what I'm looking at in the book. Like, what is it like to be a young person in the space where they're sort of devouring talent without the care for the child or the teenager, whomever, right?
right. And Michael especially, he never had a childhood. That's why he was
Yeah.
always mixed up.
Yeah.
He never had a real childhood. Because the older brothers, they were more mature at the time,
Yeah.
but he was the youngest. Yeah, he was the youngest,
Yeah.
uh, but the most talented. They had a good the movie about
Yeah.
the Jacksons. It was like a series. I think it was two or
It
three
was a
parts. And
television movie that
yeah,
came out when I was
Angela
a kid.
Bassett
Yes.
plays in
Hmm.
it, and the guy,
Yeah, she
I
plays
can't think of his
Catherine.
name, but the
Yeah.
one that played Joe Jackson, I can't think of the actor's name. But that
My
was
Can't
a
sister and
think
I
of his name,
loved it
but
when
he
we were
played a
kids.
really good Joe Jackson.
he
Yeah.
did.
Really played a good Joe Jackson.
He
Yes.
did. It was a
There's
good
a line
depiction.
in that my sister and I used to quote to each other when she's like, "Go to bed, Joseph. Go to bed." But that was one of the inspiration points for the book, was like looking at these different things, like
Okay, yeah, that
all
was
these
it was
different
pretty
pop
good.
cultural things.
Hmm.
Yeah, it was.
It
I
was a
remember
pretty good
it being good as a kid. I don't know if I rewatch it as an adult, if I think so, but I loved it as a kid.
Angela
There's another
Bassett
Michael
really
Jackson
is
movie
a
coming out.
versatile. Hmm.
Yeah.
What did you say?
Hmm.
There's
There's
another
a,
Michael Jackson movie coming out.
I
It
think
is?
his nephew is playing him, right? I believe
Oh,
Oh,
okay.
so.
I
Is
didn't
it
know his
going to be
nephew
in
was playing him.
theaters or?
Yeah, it's
Yeah, it's
going to be
coming
in
out in the
theaters.
theater.
Yeah. I think it's Jermaine's son who's playing him, I want to say.
Okay.
It's
That's
something like
wonderful. I
that.
didn't realize that.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's kind of crazy, but yeah.
So
So
is it going to be a biopic? It's
yeah, hmm,
about Michael. Okay. All
yeah,
right. Well, he he really was a one of a kind, unique person.
yeah.
And a lot of the artists that are so talented, like they just have so much talent, they don't live long.
Yeah.
They don't live a
Yeah.
full life. It's
Well,
like
from what I've heard, I've never done the research, but I heard that he died chasing his next hit because he felt that his hits came when he had a certain high. So those drugs that he was taking, he took the drugs so he could get that high because he wanted his next hit. And he felt that he would only get that hit when he had that certain high if he made an overdose. I never researched to find out if that was true, but that was the story that I heard.
Yeah. There's so many people, right? When we think of like Whitney and
Prince.
yeah, Prince
That is just so talented. I mean, one of
yeah.
a kind talents.
Yeah. And that's kind of what I want the character to be. Like he's not Michael. I want to make sure he's not Michael, but he's just one of those one of the kind talents where like he's somebody that you know by name and everybody's like, this is the guy. And what does his trajectory mean when you have all that pressure, right? All that
and the
pressure and all
talent
that
is
fame and all that talent.
right. And the talent is obvious at a young age.
Yeah.
And then it's hard to have friends because if you are famous as a kid, everybody who you encounter wants to be your friend, but there's not really a friend. They just want to be a hanger on. And so I forgot what I think it was a movie about a documentary about Janet. She said that she never had friends because all the girls wanted to know her brothers. They made friends with her
to get to them,
to her brother.
I can imagine that, and that's really sad.
It was sad.
You never know when somebody wants to be friends with you or is trying to use you to get access to the people you know.
Right.
And that's one of the things that happens in the book too, like with the older brother, because eventually the one who is quote unquote the Michael figure, even though he's not Michael, branches off and leaves his brothers behind. And so we're seeing that like the older brother is left to deal with both Vietnam, but also what does it mean when you have people trying to hang on to you because of who your famous sibling is, right?
Yes. Well, it sounds like an amazing book. I have to get a copy now that I know it's not for kids. Because I really want to read the take that you do on, just how you weave a different story about something that past events or a past phenomenon, how you created the story about that. Congratulations on.
Why, thank you so much. Thank you. And thank you for having me. This is fun.
I'm glad you enjoyed it. We enjoyed talking with you. This is a great conversation. It was like all we were doing was dishing. It didn't feel like interview.
Yeah, we talked about things we haven't really talked about before on the show. So that was good. Well, have a great night, Christina. Thanks for being a guest.
You too. Thank you for having me, and thank everybody who was watching, right? Who stayed up to watch.
Okay.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Well, that's the show for this week, and we'll be back for another amazing show next Tuesday on Black Authors Matter TV. I'm Gwen Richardson signing off.
And I'm Dr. Rhonda Lawson. Have a wonderful evening and a great week.
Thank you for tuning in, and join us next Tuesday at 7 p.m. Central, 8 p.m. Eastern for another edition of Black Authors Matter TV.